Morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? My name is Vamsee. I'm a product manager on the AMP team.
And I'm Yuxuan. I'm a software engineer on the AMP team.
So we have a lot to cover, so let's go.
Let's go.
The web used to look like this. It was made of destinations that people remembered and went to. However, the web is transitioning to a post-destination era. Users' browser patterns have changed on the web because of social, mobile, and search, which means that users are finding your content across all sorts of devices and platforms, like aggregators, chat apps, social websites, search, and many others. So with AMP, we saw an opportunity to help developers have their experiences and content transition to this post-destination era. And today, we're going to tell you how. So for those of you that haven't heard of AMP, it's an open-source web development framework that makes it super easy to build excellent web pages. With AMP, it's hard to make web pages that are slow. Not impossible, but hard. So when we launched AMP, we wanted to ensure that developers had full control over the brand. So we provided support for custom CSS. And we also wanted to ensure that AMP page developers were able to make revenue off of these AMP pages. So we added support for over 100 different ad networks and robust paywall support. And since its launch more than 3 years ago, AMP is fully transitioned from a platform that was mostly meant for static web pages to one that gives developers flexibility to build interactive, dynamic experiences. Developers can build pages with wish lists, interactive product customizations, filtering, sorting, you name it. Therefore, a number of e-commerce publishers, including the one you see here from AliExpress, are transitioning their entire sites to AMP. While adding all of this new capability, the AMP team works really hard to ensure that the performance of the page and the sites remains still great. For example, the median speed of an AMP page is still less than 1 second from the search corpus. But this talk is actually not about performance. This talk is about how AMP can help you, content and experience creators, build for the post-destination era. So how do you build for the post-destination era? You ensure that your content and experiences work really well when embedded inside a host like aggregators, social websites, chat apps, search. So AMP was built for embeddability since day one. And fun fact, before it was called AMP, it used to be called PCUs, or portable content units, which were supposed to be these widgets that would just live everywhere on the web. So spoiler alert, we think you should build your experiences with AMP, because the principles that AMP is built on top of lends itself really well for embeddability. But before we look at those principles, I'd like to give you a preview of some of the products AMP has fueled that were previously not possible in the context of embeddability. So with AMP for email, we'll see how AMP is fundamentally changing email to make it more real-time and dynamic. So no more leaving email to get things done. With AMP HTML ads, we'll see how AMP is making all ads on the web more secure and performant. And with actions, we'll see how AMP is helping users get things done on the web with just a few taps. And with zero-click AMP, we'll see how AMP can help users get to their content even before they ask for it. Wait, what? Yes. We're going to see how AMP is going to help users get to things even before they ask for it. And last, there's one more thing, but regrettably, you're going to have to wait until the end to find out about it. So now, I'd like to invite Yuxuan to tell you all about the principles behind why AMP is great for embeddability, and therefore a good fit for post-destination experiences. Welcome, Yuxuan.
Thank you, Vamsee. Hey, everyone. Before we look at AMP's principles, why don't we first take a look at some issues, the way embeddability works on the web today? And from there, we'll get a much better understanding on why AMP is great for embeddability. Current embed technologies like iframes and web views have three major issues. They're not performant, not secure, or not functional. Let's look at them one by one. First, performance. There's no guarantee that the embedded page would be performant. Therefore, a host is less likely to aggressively pre-render embedded content to create a faster user experience. since JavaScript is single-threaded, not to mention the privacy implication of leaking user data in these scenarios. Next, embedded page may bring security issues to the host. We know that cross-site scripts brings all kinds of security holes. Even if they are properly sandboxed within iframe, unknown JavaScript can still install malware or mine bitcoins without user permission in the background. Technologies like feature policy might be able to solve this by allowing the host to selectively enable and disable uses of various browser features and APIs. But unfortunately, it's not available today. Of course, a page can claim to the host that it is safe to embed, but there's just no way to guarantee that. Finally, since there's no communication interface between the host and the embed page, the host has to treat the embed as a black box, severely restricting product experience that could build with communications based on a standardized protocol. For example, as shown here, the embedded page won't be able to know when it is visible to user, not even with browser's native intersection observer API supported, because it is sandboxed in a cross-domain iframe. Because of this, many basic features like video autoplay or viewability tracking are just not available. We have briefly talked about the concerns and issues with the embed technologies today. With that in mind, let's now take a look at AMP's principle that provides excellent support to embeddability and why many hosts have chosen AMP as the embed technology. We'll be covering AMP's principles in 3 parts, and the first one is privacy-preserved pre-rendering. That's a tongue twister. Apart from the performance benefit to you by using the AMP library, hosts can further optimize and provide instant loading experience by pre-rendering AMP documents. Pre-rendering here is referring to the host downloading and rendering documents before a user explicitly expressed their intent. As you can see from the demo here, instant loading is clearly an experience that user will love. Despite the great user experience that pre-rendering provides you, it can end up using a lot of bandwidth and CPU. That's the reason why hosts won't just normally go ahead and pre-render many embedded documents. AMP documents, on the other hand, are optimized to only render light-weighted resources that's above the folder. Let's take a look at the code here. Here you'll find AMP will calculate a pre-rendered rectangle and then only load resources within that rectangle. By default, it will be the first viewport. The pre-render size here can be overridden by the host to customize the size based on real product needs. Next, you'll find, apart from the first viewport restrictions, AMP also delays loading of heavy-weighted resources in terms of CPU after the page is visible. The fact that AMP documents only render light-weighted resources that's above the folder help to minimize the usage of CPU and bandwidth, which allows the host to pre-render AMP HTML documents much more aggressively compared to regular HTML documents. Because of this, there's a much higher chance that instant loading experience is delivered and the user can see the content the moment they want it. I believe some of our audiences have noticed a big challenge with pre-rendering. That is, how do we protect user privacy, sorry. If this is unclear to you, I'd like to explain the issue behind. Pre-rendering requires downloading the document before user clicks. Otherwise, instant loading is not possible, especially on mobile devices. This means that the owner of the page that is being prefetched might be able to set a cookie, and then later on target you ads based on that cookie, even you never ended up landing on that page. Apart from that, rendering documents beforehand makes it possible to fire a tracking pixel before page view. Luckily, AMP documents comes with privacy-preserved pre-rendering support built in from day one. To protect user privacy, trackers and analytics must be delayed until the user has explicitly expressed their intent to see the document. AMP controls this with a centralized resource manager. This resource manager blocks all components and services that make external requests before page view. For example, the AMP pixel and AMP analytics component are blocked. The AMP cache adds additional privacy protection on top of that. As Vamsee mentioned before, AMP cache is an important part of the AMP ecosystem. It's a proxy-based content delivery network for delivering valid AMP documents only. One of its major purposes is to allowing AMP documents to be preloaded efficiently and safely. With prefetch requests going to the AMP cache, page owner won't be aware of the request and then won't be able to set cookies before user express their interest. We've talked about security. We've talked about privacy. Next, let's talk about security and why hosts can safely embed AMP pages. There are two ways you can think of security. One from the perspective of the embedded page and the other one from the content that's trying to embed content. We'll be focusing on the latter one today. After all, if a page isn't guaranteed to be safe, the host won't embed it. So, what is the mechanism here that makes a host to be able to trust an embedded AMP page? May I present you the AMP validator. The AMP validator makes it possible for a host to verify that an embedded page is guaranteed AMP and has no security vulnerabilities. Here's an example of our online version of the AMP validator tool. This tool creates a common agreement that both the content creator and the host can both agree upon for secure embedding. Problem solved, right? Well, not exactly. Real-time validation can be very expensive and not practical. The host needs a better way to verify the validity of an AMP document much faster. AMP cache provides the answer here. The host can deliver documents from the AMP cache without real-time validation, since AMP cache will only accept valid AMP documents. This will be the end of the story if AMP is only designed for fully formed web pages. But with its nice features and capabilities, AMP can be used to work across multiple contexts. And with each individual context, AMP supports a unique spec and validator. For example, there's a different spec for AMP HTML ads versus AMP HTML. We need to do this because, for example, the AMP iframe component is not allowed as part of an ad because it could authors embedding non-AMP content inside the ad and will lose all the performance guarantees. From the two validation examples here, you can find that the same set of HTML results in different validation status when different spec is being applied. Last, let's talk about the interface between the host and the embed, the two-way communication protocol that helps to solve a number of issues. I want to introduce this with an example. Let's take this graph. Say, I want a product like this. If I go search for pandas, I get all the related articles in one place. This requires the host to embed a number of AMP documents and place each of them inside a full-screen iframe. So what's the problem here? We know that the iframe will consume all user interactions within. So how would a user still swipe around and navigate between different documents? With AMP, this is possible. Let's dive deeper with some code. Here you'll find AMP documents will propagate all unused touch events and send this event to the host. The host can then handle these touch events as if they're native touch events from the browser. This enables users to navigate between different documents. Conversely, the host can inform visibility change event back to individual AMP documents through this visibility change message. When an AMP document is informed that it is visible to user, it can then trigger page view pixel or start loading resources that's below the folder. The communication interface API is open source and well documented. With support for two-way communication like this, the host and the AMP documents can together bring a much better user experience. For example, this is a real product that Google is able to build based on this communication protocol. With these 3 principles keep in mind, let's welcome Vamsee back on the stage and walk us through some exciting products that Google built using AMP. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Yuxuan. So there you have it, the principles behind why AMP is great for embeddability. As promised, let's shift gears back to looking at some of the embedded product features that AMP has made possible. The first product I want to talk to you about is email. Little has changed in the email spec over the past 25 years. It's a wonderful piece of technology that's critical for how people communicate with other people, businesses, tools, and favorite services. But if you're an email sender, there's little the email receiver can do other than treat the email as a notification. Email is not actionable today. The web is much more dynamic than this, as you know. And this type of dynamism and real-timeness on the web is provided to you by JavaScript. But JavaScript isn't allowed within email because of security reasons. So to tackle this, the Gmail team worked with the AMP team to create an open, backwards-compatible spec called AMP for Email to make email richer and more powerful. It's a subset of the main AMP spec with particular focus on security. It's also important to note that there is a very easy transition path from the way email works today. Email senders already create 2 versions of the email. One, a plain text version, and second, an HTML version. Senders can now create an optional 3rd version, the AMP version. This allows senders to design their AMP part of the emails independent of the HTML versions. So if a mail provider supports AMP for email, they'll render the AMP version. And if not, the mail provider would simply change nothing and show the HTML version of the email. So why don't we dig into the spec a little bit? The real-time nature of the spec is enabled by an AMP component called AMP list, which allows email authors to fetch real-time information from an endpoint. For example, nobody wants to see outdated prices of products in their emails. AMP list allows authors to fetch real-time content on their emails right before the user is about to open the email. And the interactive nature of the spec is brought to you by a component called AMP bind, which allows email creators to build interactive experiences using rich JS-like expressions. For example, this enables features like being able to respond back to an invite with a single click. Let's take a look at a few examples in action. The first is from Zillow. Zillow's goal is to help shoppers find their dream home, which of course is easier if shoppers tell Zillow what exactly they're looking for. With AMP for Email, a shopper can get from answering a few questions to personalized search results without ever leaving their email. Let's roll the video, please. So here we are within Gmail, where I've received an email from Zillow. You'll already notice how I'm able to answer a few questions right in line. So I can pick a min and a max price for the house. Clearly not buying in the Bay Area. The number of bedrooms that I'm interested in. And the type of home that I want to look for. And yes, I want to get notified. And once I'm done, I can ask to see personalized lists of houses too. I can browse around, look at images, and even save them for viewing later, all without ever having to leave email. It turns email from a notification to an application. The next example I want to show you is from Pinterest. you've received an email from Pinterest. This looks very much like the emails you received, gorgeous images. But if you notice, regular email, whenever you click on something, it probably sends out to Pinterest.com. You probably have to log in. But this is AMP for email, so you can click and view the recipe right there. Look at photos, comments. And if you're not interested, you can go back to the feed. This is all in email. You can check out a different recipe. Chicken tacos sounds nice. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and pin it to my dinner board right within email. So this is great for users because they're able to discover new things from right within email. And great for Pinterest because this allows Pinterest to just deliver a much better experience to their end users. It's no exaggeration that AMP is bringing a new era of email. So if you're a mail provider or a mail client, reach out to us on GitHub, and we'd love to help you integrate with the spec. And if you're an email sender, you can sign up for Dev Preview access on the links on the slide. Cool. So the second product I want to talk to you about is ads. Ads are a thing that get embedded most number of times than anything else in the world. Aside from the way ads are getting implemented these days, it's actually a wonderful piece of technology. It allows the ads creator's content to flow across the entire web while being embedded inside of hosts. But here's the problem. With ads, when it comes to performance, there's an issue of misaligned incentives. If the ad creator is not careful, they can impact the performance of the page. Therefore, bad behavior of an ad doesn't necessarily just impact the creator. It ends up impacting the host, and therefore, most likely, ends up resulting in a bad user experience. So we wanted to fix that. So we created AMP HTML ads. The way AMP HTML ads are implemented, they're guaranteed to be fast, secure, and performant. AMP HTML ads are written entirely in AMP HTML, which means that they can't have arbitrary JS, and they're cryptographically verified before they're delivered to a web page. I won't go into all the details about validation and cryptography, but I will leave a few links in the slides so you can follow up later. Also, these ads are supposed to work on both AMP pages and non-AMP pages, and support for mobile apps is coming soon as well. So let's take a look at what a simple AMP HTML ad looks like. So you include the handy AMP HTML ad top-level tag, and then you include the ad-specific AMP runtime, which is a thinner version of the main AMP runtime. And finally, you wrap a simple AMP image tag with an anchor link. And that's it. You have a simple AMP HTML ad. But that's just a simple ad, right? Can you build timeline-based, crazy AMP HTML ads? Yes, you can. But we're actually taking it one step further by partnering with tooling companies here. So I'm very happy to announce a partnership with the Adobe Anima team, one of the most popular ad creation tools. The power of a tool like Adobe Animate is that it allows you to do WYSIWYG-based, timeline-based animation ads instead of having to manually hard-code clipping and masking functions in JavaScript. The issue with creating complicated ads is, one, it takes forever to get the positioning and the layering of the assets right. But second, the end result ends up not being so performant as well. So I'd like to show you a quick demo of how easy it is to build great-looking ads that are also performant. So let's switch to my laptop, please. Cool. So if you haven't used Animate, it's pretty straightforward. They do a really good job with laying things out. So this is the timeline scrubber, the most important part. So I've already copied some of the assets into here, so I don't have to start from scratch. So this overall gives me the ability to kind of position things and layer things. This looks good to me. So why don't I go ahead and publish this and see how this looks. OK, that's a pretty complicated ad, and it looks great. Oh, but wait, there's like a Google thing appeared just way before like the make or the do it part. So I want to be able to fix that. Let's see how easy it is to go back and try to fix that. OK, here's the Google part. I've spotted the keyframe, so I'm going to move the keyframe out to somewhere between the make and the do it part. And I'm going to publish that again. Let's go back and refresh it. Let's see if it appears in order now, which is make Google do it. Yes, it looks great. So of course, I want to make sure that, nope, don't save it. Is it actually a valid AMP? Yep, it's valid AMP. It's a valid AMP HTML ad, uses a thinner runtime, and it also uses the AMP animation extension, which is just a wrapper around the Web Animations API. So I'm going to, just to prove that it's actually valid, I'm going to copy that and plop this into the AMP validator. And yep, that passes too. So we can switch back to my slides, please. That was entirely created in AMP HTML without any need for JavaScript, and I hope you agree that's pretty complicated ad. So trust me, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm not going to need that. All right, so some publishers are already choosing to use AMP HTML ads in their AMP campaigns they execute. For example, El País, a publisher from Spain, saw 90% decrease in ad latency and an increase of 32% in click-through rate. So if you're in the ads business, we think AMP HTML ads can help you achieve your business needs, and also while ensuring that ads are fast, performant, and secure on the web. You can learn more about AMP HTML ads on the link on the slide. Third product. The next one I want to talk to you about is actions. It's still way too hard to get things done on the web, especially things that involve a credit card. The beauty of the web is in the diversity of the merchants that can fulfill a user's need. But for a user that discovers a merchant from Google.com, the user needs to reintroduce themselves to the merchant with things like credit card information or identity. This creates a lot of friction. For example, 54% of users abandon account registration flows when you show them a registration form. And 33% abandon purchase flows when you show at the credit card entry stage. Nobody likes to fill out a form, especially on mobile. So to solve this problem, the Actions team at Google worked with a few merchants to provide a seamless transaction experience with AMP Pages, Google Sign-In, and GPay for sessions starting from the Google Assistant or Google Search. AMP's tight security, performance, and host communication APIs allowed Google to offer transaction primitives like identity, payments, and receipts as one integrated package. Actions can also integrate with other Google services in the future. For example, say I want to make a reservation for lunch this afternoon. Actions can actually start to overlay my Google Calendar with my permission on top of my booking flow, reservation flow, without ever having to share the entire calendar with a merchant. Making such guarantees on non-AMP pages is really, really hard. So why don't we look at a few demos? The first one is from Fandango, who built an entire checkout experience in AMP using Actions. Let's switch to my phone, please. OK, so I've been pretty busy with the I/O stuff, so I haven't even watched Avengers yet. So why don't I go ahead and try to book some tickets for Avengers? Avengers showtimes. Live demo while casting. What could go wrong? 4 p.m. sounds good. Ah, Fandango seems to have a fast checkout option with the AMP logo. Let me go ahead and click that, see what happens. And that loads pretty instantly. And this is a real-time seat map, so I'm going to go ahead and select 2 seats to go with my wife. And you notice Google's already filled in all my payment information. The summary looks great. So I'm going to complete purchase. And there, I have my tickets in my hand. From the time I decided to go to the movie to having my tickets in my hand, it took less than 30 seconds. And not only that, the order is saved to my Google account, so in case I want to go back later and find it. Not only that, I can, with a single tap, actually share my email address with Fandango if I choose to get offers and such. So I'm going to say that, sure. And that's it. And now I'm a Fandango VIP. We can switch back to my slides, please. Note that I never had to pick out a form field, type in my email, or credit card information. AMC is also building an Actions experience using AMP soon. So next, let's take a look at DoorDash, which makes it really easy to order food using AMP Pages and Actions from the Assistant. Let's roll the video, please. So I like Italian food. It's never too late or never too early to order some Italian food. So I did that. DoorDash has the AMP logo, so I'm going to tap on it. Always a good idea to get some margarita pizza. I like roasted garlic. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to my order. Never not get dessert, right? Tiramisu sounds great. So add that to the order. These are all AMP pages, by the way. I'm going to view cart and check out. Again, Google's filled out all the information that I care about. I don't have to ever enter a credit card form or a field. And I'm going to go ahead and place the order. And that's it. Getting things done using AMP and actions with just a few taps. We can switch back to the slides, please. So it's a win-win situation for users and merchants. Users get a fast checkout experience that is Google optimized. And since pages are written in AMP, chances are they're performant and have a great user experience. Users almost never need to fill out a credit card form or enter any forms for that matter. And there's a single place for all your receipts in case you want to track where your order is or track your expenses in general. Merchants are able to retain full control of the UI with their AMP pages, so they can build long-term relationships with their customers and acquire them over the long term. Merchants get higher conversion rates because of the streamlined checkout experiences. We've seen greater than 20% sign-in uplift and greater than 2x conversion uplift when you use Google Pay. Merchants spend less time implementing transaction primitives and focus on things that they can add unique value to. So stay tuned to hear more details about this from the Google team later this summer. All right, folks, the last product I want to talk to you about is how AMP is enabling some powerful new features we're calling zero-click experiences, which means that if a developer has pretty good confidence on the thing that the user is going to click next, why not have it ready even before they ask for it? So let's look at one such example. Google Images is building frictionless visual search that helps users go beyond the image to your site. But here's the problem. An average web page takes more than 15 seconds to load, and more than half of them leave if the page takes more than 3 seconds to load. But what if we reduce the cost of a click down to 0? Remember that this is possible with AMP's privacy-preserving pre-rendering. So here's one way the Google Image team is planning to solve this problem using AMP. Let's say I'm in the market for renovating my kitchen. So I go to Google Images and search for kitchen ideas. Now is when I search for modern kitchen ideas. I find an image that's interesting to me, so I click on it. With AMP's privacy-preserving pre-rendering, Google Images can pre-render the web page where the image is from and make it readily available for the user, as you see in the bottom web view where it says ldecor.com. If the user taps on the preview, it loads instantly. When users internalize that the cost of a click is down to 0, it intuitively helps them to explore the rich content beyond the image. Ultimately, it's great for the user because they're able to get inspired and look at multiple ideas on the web, and it's great for publishers because they receive more traffic. OK, so that was 4 different products that are all using AMP to implement product features that were not possible before. And now to reveal the mystery, right? It's not so much an example, but a different way to think about AMP. And we call it AMP as Foundation. It basically means that no matter where your content or experiences live, you can power those experiences using AMP, including your own destination sites. So let's dig into what an existing setup for most publishers looks like. A lot of publishers have produced paired AMP pages, which are being surfaced across various different platforms, as you see on the slide. The way they know to surface these AMP versions is by following the link rel equal to AMP HTML tag on their non-AMP pages. And if you haven't already produced AMP pages, I hope today we've given you enough reasons why you should. So separately, a number of publishers are also rebuilding their websites using PWAs, or progressive web apps, to take advantage of things like push notifications, offline capabilities, and all the amazing things you've been hearing about PWAs. So where does AMP fit in? You know how we talked about AMP being excellent for embeddability? You can take those same AMP pages and embed them inside your PWA. So this can be done using a technology called Shadow DOM. So you can have some really powerful features in the PWA shell and have the AMP content layer function independent of the shell in the shadow root. This pattern works great overall, but there are some outstanding issues we continue to fix, which are pretty minor. So I wanted to call that out in the link on the slide. Yuxuan Zhou, a really well-known creative firm from Germany, built a super compelling experience using the pattern we're talking about. By the way, they also won 2 Webby Awards, so congrats. I'd like to show you a quick video featuring the site they just built for BMW.com by embedding AMP pages inside of PWAs. Let's roll the video, please.
How do you excite people for a car brand who are not interested in cars at all? By listening to their needs and telling them stories they actually want to hear. Data-driven, entertaining, and helpful. For this purpose, we've developed a central stage, a new home for the BMW brand, the all-new BMW.com. For a web experience just as dynamic as our cars, we used Google's high-speed AMP framework and dramatically increased performance. And thanks to another web technology called PWA, ultra-smooth full-screen videos enrich the experience, and the next great story is only a swipe away. The result? A 30% higher click-through rate from Google Search, and up to 3 times faster website loading compared to competitors, and a high-performance experience that you would only expect from a native app. And of course, the configurator or a local test drive are always just one click away. The all-new BMW.com, the world's fastest automotive content marketing website.
I think they've done a really good job with it. The site's live at BMW.com right now, so you can go play with it if you'd like. And today we saw a number of different use cases of products where AMP is the core layer that powers those experiences. And who knows, there are probably other things we aren't thinking about, maybe future use cases like AMP in car dashboards, maybe AMP in virtual reality. It's really yours to explore. So if you take away one thing today, it's this. The web is moving towards a post-destination era. And if you're a developer building content or experiences in this new era, you need to build on top of a technology that works everywhere, not just at your destinations. AMP delivers superior performance, security, and standards, which enables features that are just not possible with the regular pages. So we can't wait to see what you build with it. Thank you.